Welcome to the Forgotten Crimes. Today we will talk about the Menendez brothers. In the annals of American true crime, few cases have captivated the public's imagination like the Menendez brothers' story. The gruesome murders of Jose and Kitty Menendez, carried out by their own sons, Lyle and Erik, have become a symbol of the dark underbelly of wealth, privilege, and family secrets. This is a tale of ambition, power, and the ultimate betrayal, a story that asks us to question the very nature of evil. Set against the backdrop of Beverly Hills, California, the Menendez case was more than just a murder trial. It was a media sensation that exposed the vulnerabilities of an elite family and left the nation grappling with unsettling questions. Were Lyle and Erik victims of unimaginable abuse, driven to kill by fear? Or were they cold-blooded murderers, motivated by greed and a desire to inherit their parents' fortune? Over the next few minutes, we'll dive deep into the lives of the Menendez brothers, exploring their upbringing, the events that led to the murders, the trials that followed, and the lasting impact of their story on American culture. This is the tale of two young men who went from being the sons of a wealthy power couple to some of the most infamous criminals in history. Jose Enrique Menendez was born in Havana, Cuba, in 1944. His early life was marked by the political upheaval of the Cuban Revolution, which forced his family to flee to the United States when Jose was just 16 years old. Despite the challenges of starting over in a new country, Jose quickly adapted, displaying the drive and ambition that would later define his career. Jose attended Southern Illinois University, where he met Mary Louise Kitty Anderson. Kitty, a former beauty queen, was drawn to Jose's charisma and determination. The two married in 1963 and soon began building the life of their dreams. Jose's career in the entertainment industry took off rapidly as he climbed the corporate ladder at RCA and later at Hertz. By the 1980s, he was a top executive at Live Entertainment, a company responsible for distributing major films and TV shows. In 1976, the Menendez family moved to the affluent neighborhood of Beverly Hills, California. It was here that Jose and Kitty sought to give their sons, Lyle and Erik, the best of everything: prestigious schools, private tennis lessons, and a life of luxury. But behind the gates of their lavish home, a very different reality was unfolding. Lyle and Erik were typical rich kids on the surface, good-looking, popular, and always involved in sports. But there was something off about their family dynamic. Jose was incredibly strict, and Kitty was often distant. The boys were under constant pressure to succeed, and you could tell it took a toll on them. By all accounts, Jose Menendez was a domineering father. He controlled every aspect of his sons' lives, from their academic performance to their social interactions. Kitty, struggling with her own mental health issues, was emotionally unavailable, leaving Lyle and Erik without the nurturing support they needed. The result was a toxic environment where fear and anxiety reigned. As they entered their teenage years, Lyle and Erik began to rebel. They clashed with their father over his relentless demands and their desire for independence. The tension within the household escalated, setting the stage for the tragic events that would soon unfold. On the night of August 20th, 1989, the Menendez family's Beverly Hills mansion became the site of a brutal double murder. Lyle and Erik Menendez, aged 21 and 18 respectively, entered the family room armed with shotguns. Their parents, Jose and Kitty, were relaxing on the couch, unaware of the horror that was about to befall them. According to their later testimony, the brothers fired multiple rounds at close range, killing Jose instantly and leaving Kitty mortally wounded. As Kitty attempted to crawl away, she was shot again, her body riddled with bullets. The crime was savage, with both victims suffering massive injuries that left no doubt about the intent to kill. After the murders, Lyle and Erik made a panicked 911 call, claiming they had just discovered their parents' bodies. The police arrived quickly, but initial suspicions focused on a mob-related hit, given Jose's business dealings in the entertainment industry. The brothers, meanwhile, appeared to be grieving sons devastated by the loss of their parents. But as the investigation progressed, cracks began to appear in the brothers' story. Detectives noticed that Lyle and Erik were not behaving like typical grieving sons. Instead of mourning, they engaged in extravagant spending sprees, purchasing luxury cars, expensive watches, and even a restaurant. This behavior, coupled with the lack of forced entry and the precise nature of the murders, led police to begin scrutinizing the brothers more closely. The crime scene was meticulously clean. There were no signs of a struggle, no fingerprints, nothing to indicate that anyone other than Lyle and Erik had been in the house. The evidence started pointing towards an inside job, and the brothers quickly became the prime suspects. Erik Menendez, the younger of the two brothers, was struggling to cope with the weight of what they had done. He began seeing a therapist, Dr. Jerome Oziel, to deal with his anxiety and guilt. It was during one of these sessions that Erik made a shocking confession. He admitted to killing his parents, a revelation that would soon come back to haunt him. Dr. Oziel, recognizing the gravity of Erik's confession, secretly recorded their sessions. These tapes would become crucial evidence in the case, but their use in court was hotly contested. The defense argued that the recordings violated doctor-patient confidentiality, while the prosecution maintained that they were critical to proving the brothers' guilt. The tapes were a double-edged sword. On one hand, they provided a clear confession from Erik. On the other hand, their admissibility in court raised serious ethical questions about the boundaries of confidentiality. Ultimately, the court ruled that the tapes could be used, setting a precedent that would have far-reaching implications for future cases. In March 1990, Lyle and Erik Menendez were arrested for the murders of their parents. The public was stunned. How could two seemingly privileged young men commit such a heinous crime? The stage was set for one of the most sensational trials of the century. The Menendez Brothers trial began in July 1993 and quickly became a media circus. With cameras allowed in the courtroom, millions of viewers tuned in to watch the proceedings, making it one of the first major trials to be broadcast live on television. The case had all the elements of a Hollywood thriller: wealth, power, sex, and murder, and the public was riveted. The defense argued that Lyle and Erik had been subjected to years of emotional and sexual abuse at the hands of their father, and that the murders were an act of self-defense born out of fear that their parents were planning to kill them. The brothers took the stand to testify about the horrors they claimed to have endured, painting a picture of a family torn apart by dark secrets. The abuse claims were a central focus of the trial, with the defense presenting detailed accounts of the alleged incidents. However, the prosecution countered that there was no physical evidence to support these claims and that the brothers had fabricated the story to justify their actions. They argued that the real motive was greed, the desire to inherit their parents' fortune. To support their case, the prosecution highlighted the brothers' lavish spending in the months following the murders. They bought expensive cars, jewelry, and even a restaurant, suggesting that their actions were those of remorseless killers who had planned the murders to gain financial independence. The first trial ended in a hung jury, with some jurors believing the brothers' claims of abuse, while others were convinced they were guilty of cold-blooded murder. The deadlock led to a mistrial, and the case was retried in 1995 with a new jury. This time, the judge imposed stricter guidelines on what evidence could be presented, particularly regarding the abuse allegations. In the second trial, the jury found Lyle and Erik Menendez guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict was a clear rejection of the brothers' defense, and they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case was finally over, but the debate over the brothers' guilt and the justice of their sentence continues to this day. After their conviction, Lyle and Erik Menendez were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was severe, reflecting the gravity of their crime. But for the brothers, the reality of spending the rest of their lives behind bars was only just beginning. Lyle and Erik were initially placed in separate prisons, where they adjusted to life as inmates. Despite their circumstances, both brothers found ways to cope. Lyle became involved in various prison programs, while Erik focused on his education. Remarkably, both brothers eventually married while in prison, forging relationships with women who were drawn to their case. The Menendez brothers have managed to adapt to life in prison in ways that many others might not. They've maintained connections with the outside world, continued to pursue education, and even found a sense of purpose in their daily routines. But the specter of their crime looms large, and their hopes for freedom remain slim.
Over the years, Lyle and Erik have filed numerous appeals, arguing that they were denied a fair trial and that new evidence could exonerate them. However, these appeals have been largely unsuccessful, with the courts consistently upholding their convictions. For now, it seems unlikely that either brother will ever be released. The Menendez brothers' case has left an indelible mark on American culture. Their story has been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and television dramas, each offering a different perspective on the events that led to the murders. From the made-for-TV movies of the 1990s to recent true crime series, the public's fascination with the Menendez case shows no signs of waning. The Menendez case was one of the first major trials to be televised, and it set the stage for the modern true crime genre. The media played a significant role in shaping public perception of the brothers, often focusing on the sensational aspects of the case rather than the complex psychological and social issues at play. This focus on spectacle over substance has had a lasting impact on how true crime is consumed and understood. Comparing the Menendez case to other high-profile trials, such as the O.J. Simpson case or the Manson family murders, reveals common themes of wealth, power, and media influence. But the Menendez case stands out for its exploration of family dynamics and the question of whether abuse can ever justify murder. This moral ambiguity is part of what makes the case so compelling and enduring. In recent years, the Menendez brothers have been portrayed in various forms of media, from fictionalized accounts in television dramas to sympathetic portrayals in documentaries that revisit the case with a more critical eye. These portrayals continue to shape public understanding of the case, offering new insights and perspectives on a story that remains as relevant today as it was in the 1990s. More than 3 decades after the murders, Lyle and Erik Menendez remain in prison, where they have now spent more of their lives behind bars than they did as free men. Despite their circumstances, the brothers have continued to maintain their innocence, insisting that the abuse they suffered justified their actions. In recent years, both have faced health challenges, raising questions about their long-term future. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the Menendez brothers' story. Please like, share, and subscribe to The Forgotten Crimes for more in-depth explorations of true crime cases and the stories that define them.